everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this super cozy triangular cowl type shawl. It is made up using that fabulous granny stitch and I've added this wonderful Picot edging. Now you can obviously make these as large or as small as you like. I'm going to explain to you in a moment exactly what yarn I used and how much. Now I have made this so that the triangle is at the front, and then what I do is I tend to tie my ends at the back, pull them around and just tuck them under, and that makes it super warm and cozy to wear. You can make them a lot larger and have them as a shawl that you wrap around your shoulders. You can make them a lot smaller and wear them on your head in a festival bandana style. Now either way, what I'm going to do for this tutorial is I'm just going to start you off, because once you start your rows out, you're just going to keep going until you get to the size that you want. So all I'm going to do today is show you how to make up a little swatch like this, so you would just carry on, and then I'm going to show you how to add that lovely Picot edging. So I'm now going to go over to my desk and I'll start you off. So for the cowl that I've just shown you, I used this absolutely gorgeous yarn. Now this is all that I have left of just one ball of cedar jewel spun. Now this colourway is called Setting Sun, but they do lots of other colourways. It is 100% acrylic. Now, as I say, I used just one ball, but they are large balls, so just be wary. Each ball of the cedar jewel spun is 200 grams, and you do have a length of 500 meters. So if you're using a smaller sized ball of yarn, then you are going to need to have more than one ball. But as I say, on these colours, absolutely fabulous. So the colour changes are nice and subtle, so that's why I particularly liked this yarn. Is nice and squishy and nice and warm around your neck. So just for info, not including the Picot edging, I went out for a total of 32 rows. So if you want to check that, where we start just here, I just counted 1, 2, 3, 4 until I got to 32 rows. And as I say, after I'd put that Picot edging on, this is all I had left. Now I used a 5mm hook, as this is an Aran weight yarn. Now for this example, I'm just going to make up this little swatch here. Then I'm going to add the Picot border on, because as I told you before, once you've started your rows, you'll literally just go out, follow the pattern until you get to the size that you want. For this example, I'm again using an Aran weight yarn. This is Stylecraft Special Aran and the colourway is Pale Rose. I'll be using my 5mm Clover hook. You're going to need a darning needle for those ends and a small pair of scissors. So I'm going to start my cowl by using the magic circle. Now you don't have to use this if you're not familiar with the magic circle. I'm going to show you how I do mine, but you could also just do a chain of 4 and then just join to form a loop, but I'm going to use the magic circle, and this is how I do mine. So I have my tail end pointing at the front, and then I wrap around these 2 fingers, then I cross my yarn over, I go under with my hook, grab that yarn, pull it through, and I turn my fingers, I take them out, and then making sure I grab my working yarn, not my tail, I just do a simple chain to secure. And I know that's the magic circle if I just take that end out, because when I pull on this tail end it will close up. Now we're going to start with a chain of 4. This will include this chain here, so we've already done 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now this chain of 4 is going to count as 1 UK treble. If you use US terminology, that's 1 US double. So I use UK, so it's 1 UK treble plus a chain 1. Now in this centre circle here, we're going to put 3 more trebles. So that's yarn over, push through, grab the yarn, pull through, so I have 3 on my hook, grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through 2. So that's 1. We're going to do that twice more. So it's yarn over, push through, grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through 2. One more. So it's grab the yarn, pull through 2, pull through 2. So this is what you should have at the moment. You should have our first initial chain up space, and then you'll have a cluster of 3 trebles. Now we need to make the centre point of our cowl, and we're going to just do a chain of 2. So that's 1, 2. Now we're going to put in this centre circle another cluster of 3 trebles. So that's 1, 2, oops, and 3. Then we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to put in 1 more treble. So that's 1. Now if I lay this down, I'll just take my hook out. I'm just going to lay this down, and we will have already, if you just manipulate that just a little bit, we've got our first start to our cowl. So what I'm going to do with this magic circle is I'm just going to pull that nice and tight, and what we've made is this part here. So this is just row 1. So now we're going to start row 2, and then this is going to be the row that you're just going to keep repeating out and out until you get to the size that you want. So we're going to, before we turn, we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, this is going to count as 1 UK treble and a chain 1 space. So we're going to turn our work, and then you can see we have this first space here. So this is before our cluster of 3. We have just this small space from the row before. In this space here, we're going to put in 2 trebles. So we're going to start each row like this. So each row starts with a chain 4 and then just 2 UK trebles. Then, as we do with the granny squares, we're going to chain 1 because we're working along the side. Now we're going to jump over here, and we're getting to this centre point of our cowl. So this is how we're going to work the centre each time. We're going to put in a cluster of 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do a chain 2 to make our point. And then in that same center space there, we're going to put another cluster of 3 trebles. So that's 1, 2 and 3. Again, we're working along the side, so as with your granny squares, I'm going to do a chain 1. Now we're going to be working in this final space here. So when we did the row before, we had a cluster of 3, chain 1, and then that was our original chain up, which counts as 1 treble. So in this little space here, we're going to work 2 trebles. And this is how you finish each row, by 2 trebles, chain 1, and then in this space I'm going to put 1 more treble. And then I've finished round 2. Now before we turn our work, we're going to start with our chain 4. So it's 2, 3 and 4. Then I'm going to turn. Now in this first little space here, before we get to our cluster of 2, we're going to put another 2 trebles. So as I say, each time we start is going to be a chain 4 and then 2 trebles in that first space. We're working along the side, so we're going to put a chain 1. Now we're going to jump to this space here. Now if you've done granny squares, you will know each time you add another round, you will have more spaces along the side. So we're still working along the side. We're going to put a cluster of 3 trebles. So 1, 2 and 3. We need to get to this center point of our cowl, but we're still working along the side. So we do a chain 1. Then we jump to this center point. We're going to do a cluster of 3. 1, 2 and 3. For our point, we're going to do a chain of 2 and then we turn. We're still working on this center of our cowl, so we're going to put in that same space a cluster of 3. 1, 2 and 3. We're still working along the side. We have this space here to work in. So we make sure we chain 1. We're going to do our cluster of 3. 1, 2 and 3. We need to get to our end point here, but we're still working along the side. So we do a chain 1 in this final corner. This is how we finish. We do 2 trebles, 1, 2, a chain 1 and 1 treble. And then we finished another row. And this is how each row or round, whatever you'd like to call them, will be worked. So I'm going to go through this again another couple of times and then I'll leave you to carry on until you get to the size that you require. So each time we start, we're going to chain 4, 3, 4. Then we're going to turn. In this first space here, we're going to do 2 trebles. So that's 1, 2. As with the row before, our spaces along the side has increased. So as we're working along the side, we do a chain 1. In this space here, we're going to put a cluster of 3. 1, 2, and 3. We're still along the side, so it's a chain 1, then a cluster of 3 in the next space along. 2, 3. Now we're going to get to the point, the centre point of our cowl. We're still working along the side to get there, so we do a chain 1. Then to work that point, we're going to do a cluster of 3, 2, 3. Oops, I need to get more yarn. To make that point of our cowl, we do a chain 2, turn to work along the other side. We're still making our point, so in that same centre, we're going to put a cluster of 3. So in that same centre space, that's how we work our point each time. We're going to be working along our second side here, so we do a chain 1, jump to this space here, put in a cluster of 3, 1, 2, and 3. Still working along the side, so we need to put in a chain 1. We're going to jump to this space here and put in our cluster of 3. So each space has a cluster of 3 along each side apart from the final and the first space. So we need to jump to this final space here. We're going to do a chain 1 to get there. Then it's a cluster of 2. 1, 2, chain 1, and then it's one more treble in that final space. So if I lay this down for you, you can see the lovely triangle shape is forming. You can see we have our centre point here. So just to recap, each time we start with a chain of 4. Then we work in that first space with just 2 trebles. Whilst we're working along the side, in between our clusters, we'll chain 1. So in the first space, we then start using our clusters of 3. So cluster of 3, chain 1, cluster of 3, chain 1, cluster of 3. To get to that centre point here, we still, because we're working along the edge, we put in our chain 1. To go around here, we do cluster of 3, chain 2, cluster of 3, and that brings us along this edge here. Now I'm going to show you one more time, and then you can carry on until you get to the size that you require. So to start, we're going to chain 4. We're going to flip our work. Then in this first space here, we're going to put 2 trebles, 1 and 2. Working along that side, we're going to do chain 1. In this space here, we're going to put in our cluster of 3. 1, 2, and 3. So it's chain 1 and another cluster of 3. So you've got the hang of this now, I'm sure. As you can see, you can just go out for as far as you want to go, but it's quite addictive. 1, 2. Now, if you've already got the hang of this, you can just carry on now until you get to the size that you want. But I will just show you this centre point one more time. So we need to chain 1, hopping over to this centre point space. We're going to do a cluster of 3, 1, 2, and 3. Oh, my yarn's getting tangled. Always happens when I'm filming. And for your point, you're going to do a chain of 2, turn, and in that same centre point space, we're going to do another cluster of 3. Then I'm going to work down this side here. So chain 1, jump to this space, and it's a cluster of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, jump to this next space, and it's a cluster of 3. Then it's chain 1, jump to this space, another cluster of 3, 2, and 3. Then we need to finish this side off, so it's going to be a chain 1 into this final space. It's going to be 2 trebles, a chain 1, and another treble. And there you go. So all you need to do now is just carry on until you get to the size that you want, and I will show you how to put on your edging. So once you've gone out as far as you want to go, we're just going to put a simple edging on. So what we're going to do here, we're not going to chain up at all. I'm literally going to just turn my work. And then we're going to work in this first space here. We're going to do our first picot. So I'm literally going to work in that space. I'm going to do 1 double crochet. I'm going to do a chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. Then I'm going to put in that space again 1 double crochet. And you're going to see a little point appear. Now in the top of these 2 trebles here from the round before, we're just going to put 1 double crochet. So we're going to work in the top of that stitch, push through, and then just work a double crochet. In the top of the next one, we're going to do the same. So let's push through, grab the yarn, pull through, grab the yarn, pull through. Now, as I said before, I use UK terms, so a double crochet, if you use US terms, is a single. We move to this next space here from the round before. We're going to do another picot, so we're going to work 1 double crochet, chain 3, in the same space, 1 double crochet. So you can see these little points are forming. Now in the top of these 3 trebles from the round before, 1, 2, 3, we're just going to put our double crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. Now we come to the next space. So again, we're going to put 1 double crochet in that space, chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and then in the same space 1 double crochet. So that's how we're going to work all the way along until we get to this point here, and then it's going to be something slightly different, but just carry on. So when you get to these clusters, in the top you're going to just put 1 double crochet in the top of those treble stitches from the round before, and then each space is going to be 1 double crochet, chain 3 and then 1 double crochet. So just carry along until you get to our point here, and I'll show you what to do. So as you can see, I've worked all the way along and we've got these lovely points here. Now when we get to this centre point of our cowl, this is the piece that's going to be at the front. So we need to go around this corner just nice and neatly. So what we're going to do is put 3 picots in this centre point here. So to do that, we are literally going to 1 double crochet, chain of 3 and 1 double crochet, so that's 1 picot. In this same centre point here, we're going to do another one, so it's 1 double crochet, chain of 3 and 1 double crochet. Now you may want to just use the bottom of those stitches just to cinch them round, because we're going to put another one in. So that's 1 double crochet, a chain of 3 and the final double crochet. Now what I'll do is I'll just take my hook out and show you. So I'll just show you, I'm just going to pull those out with my needle so you can see it nice and clearly. We had this lovely picot edging going down here. Now as I say, this is going to be at the front, so we've got a nice neat turn here, and then we're just going to do exactly the same as on this side all the way along until we finish. So in the top of those stitches from the round before, it's literally just double crochet. 1, 2, 3 and then picot as before. So double crochet, chain of 3 and a double crochet. So just carry along this edge as we did before, and I'll meet you at the end. So I've worked all the way along this side. I've done my double crochets in the top of those 2 trebles from the round before, and then finally in this end space I'm going to do just 1 more picot. So double crochet, chain 3, double crochet, and then I'm just simply going to fasten off. So I'm just going to do a chain 1 up, grab my scissors that have escaped, there we go, pull that tail through and just cinch that down as best that we can, and then we're just going to weave in our ends. So just thread your darning needle. I'm going to turn mine over, and just using the back of these stitches here, I'm just going to hide my tail as best that I can. Now I always find this hard to do on camera because I can't quite get as close as I want to be, but hey, I'll do it as neatly as I can. Obviously you'll be able to do it a little bit neater. So, and as usual, I always leave my tail too long, and I'm going to go back. Now if you've watched me before, I like to go to and fro 3 times. So just using the backs of those stitches. Just go back again. Okay, and then you're going to cut your yarn as close as you dare. Make sure you don't cut your work. You really don't want to end up with a hole now. And then what I'm going to do also is I'm going to sew in this end here. So I did actually work over this tail when we started. But again, I'm going to use the backs of those stitches. So I'm going to go that way, and because I worked over the tail at the beginning, that counts as one way. So I've gone this way. If I go back again, that counts as 3 ways. It just helps, I feel, to keep those tail ends in. Again, snip that off as close to your work as you dare. And there you go. So there you go, there's my little mini version. Now what I tend to do is block, especially block my edging. So all I would do now is take this to the ironing board and then I pin out these little points. Okay, and then you can either just spray with water and give it a light steam, or you can use starch or whatever method you normally use, but it just defines those picots nicely. And as I say, you just make yours to the size that you want. So if you found this tutorial helpful, please do give me a thumbs up, leave some comments down below, and I will see you here next time. Bye-bye.